Tonight on the South Today, Dunedin's state of emergency may be lifted, but Civil Defence is still warning residents to stay away from beaches. Could Otago's main centre be wiped out by a major earthquake? One academic offers seismous fact. And Southlanders may have escaped major damage, but the area's Civil Defence group says it's a timely reminder. Good evening, I'm Rebecca Dupree. Coastal homes from the Waitaki to Clutha were evacuated last night following the magnitude 7.5 earthquake. Tsunami warnings were in place along the east coast of the South Island, and one South Dunedin school began with an evacuation reminder. Otago Civil Defence has now lifted its emergency status, but is still advising people to stay away from beaches.
Getting through a natural disaster is all about being prepared. Bathgate Park School tamariki were briefed this morning at the Assembly about the school's evacuation plan. The school closed for several days after last year's Dunedin floods, and the principal says last night's tsunami warnings brought disaster management into sharp focus.
It is a timely reminder to all schools, particularly those schools in low-lying areas such as South Dunedin, to be prepared for an emergency of this situation. So this morning I briefed the school in terms of our tsunami response, and so within the next couple of days we'll be having an emergency tsunami drill.
The fatal 7.5 magnitude North Canterbury quake triggered an Otago Civil Defence emergency and evacuations from the Waitaki to Clutha. Otago Civil Defence Group Controller Chris Hawker says every school should be doing this, especially after the chaos following the 2011 Canterbury quake.
Tremendously important. All schools should be doing this thing. And all parents that have children at schools should know what the plans are for the school. One of the big difficulties that happened in a number of places in Christchurch following the earthquakes, especially in February, was that a lot of parents ran straight for the schools. And that just caused even more gridlock in a city that was seriously damaged.
Hawker is just one of the many personnel from Civil Defence and other teams who's been on duty since the quake struck after midnight.
We evacuated about 5 or 6 communities along the sides of the Dunedin coast. Because I'm the regional controller, I'm also looking at the Waitaki region and the Clutha district as well. So there was a number of communities along the whole coastline that we were identified that needed to be evacuated, and we were working with the emergency services. The exact number, I can't tell you off the top of my head.
He says there was a significant number of people working last night helping evacuate coastal communities. Otago Civil Defence says while the official tsunami warning was lifted around 6 a.m, they're still advising people to stay away from the beaches for the next 24 hours as a precaution. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Police in the central Otago and Lakes districts are reminding people not to leave valuables in their vehicles. Detective Lisa Watt of Queenstown says in the last 2 weeks vehicles have been broken into in Queenstown, Wanaka and Alexandra. Thieves are targeting mainly rental vehicles and smashing windows to gain entry. Detective Watt advised car owners to keep valuables such as cash and passports with them if possible. A leading earthquake researcher had told Dunedin residents to remain calm in the wake of this morning's earthquake. Professor Mark Sterling says more seismic activity is expected in New Zealand, but he says the chance of Dunedin being struck by a large event is lower because of its proximity to major fault lines.
Professor Mark Sterling, Chair of Earthquake Science at Otago University, slept right through last night's 7.5 magnitude earthquake. I'm Roselle LeBone at the Geology Department of Otago University. Professor Sterling says there is a high chance of an even bigger earthquake hitting the same epicentre, but Dunedin residents should not be alarmed. However, Professor Sterling says a fault line 15 kilometres out of the city, such as the Kaikoura and Titiri faults, could do significant damage.
The city. So if one of those faults had produced a large earthquake, yeah, there'd be a lot of damage in Dunedin, and the trick of it is being aware of the problem before it happens, and that's what we're doing.
Professor Sterling says the likelihood of activity on adjacent faults in the area of the present earthquake sequence is much higher. He says Dunedin has an old-built environment which has existed for a long time without significant seismic activity.
So, I mean, if there was a decent earthquake on one of the faults close to Dunedin, yeah, there'd be very strong shaking and a lot of damage. And that awareness has been greatly increased in recent years. There's government-funded work that we've been working on to understand the earthquake hazard of Dunedin.
While more events are likely to occur in the coming years, steps are being taken to strengthen Dunedin's historic architecture. I'm Rosella Bone for South Today.
A live wallaby has been found in an Invercargill city backyard. A resident in North Invercargill spotted the pest after she'd realised something was disturbing her dog. One of the only places that holds a permit for these creatures is at Queen's Park Animal Reserve. Environment Southland quickly responded to the call and the animal's been handed over to a South Canterbury Wildlife Park. The Regional Council says they know people can find the animals cute, but they pose a significant risk to the environment. Well, still to come on the South Today, a new